True of Lost at Sea. I share the story behind Buttercup's Lament, inspired by, you guessed it, Princess Bride. You'll also learn why you should watch out for wild boar in Italy, see what happens when a juggler's props don't arrive, and learn about the most beautiful place in Europe. Hear a story about biking across Italy. You'll hear interviews with jugglers Paolo Garbanzo and Asch about their Ren Adventures, plus enjoy music from Scottish folk singer Ed Miller and Irish songwriter Enda Reilly. This is Pub Songs and Stories, number 288.
When Jeremy Lanigan gathered a wait till he hadn't a pound, and his father died and made him a man again. Left him a farm and 10 acres of ground. Myself to be sure got free invitation for all the boys and girls I might ask, without being asked. But friends and relations were dancing like bees around the sweet cask. There were lashings of punch and wine for the ladies, potatoes and cake, bacon and tea, Nolans and Dolans and all the O'Grady's were courting the girls and dancing away. Songs went round as plenty as water. The harp that once sounded at Tarrow's Hall. Sweet Lily Green, the rat catcher's daughter, were singing together at Lanigan's ball. Nonsensical polkas all in the room in a whirling a gig. Julie and I who banished the nun, she kicked up a twist of a reel and a jig. How the girls, they all got mad at me, for they thought the ceiling would fall. I spent 6 months at Brooks Academy learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. 6 months I spent in Dublin, 6 months doing nothing at all. 6 months I spent in Dublin learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. She stepped out, I stepped in again, I stepped out. She stepped in again, she stepped out. I stepped in again learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. Boys were merry, the girls are hearty, dancing around in couples and groups. An accident happened, young Terence McCarthy, he put his foot in Miss Finnerty's hoops. Port Arthur cried and ward bloody murder, sent for her brothers and gathered them all. Carmody swore he'd go no further to heat a revenge at Lanigan's ball. In the midst of the roll, Miss Kerrigan fainted her lips at the same time as red as a rose. Some of the lads declared she was paying, she took a small drop, too much I suppose. Sweet Ned Morgan, so powerful knave, when he saw us for coin shook out by the wall. Tore the left leg from under the table and smashed the Chinese at Lanigan's ball. 6 months I spent in Dublin, 6 months doing nothing at all. 6 months I spent in Dublin learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. She stepped out, I stepped in again, I stepped out. She stepped in again, she stepped out. I stepped in again learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. I got a kick from Bill McHugh. I soon replied to his introduction and kicked up a terrible hullabaloo. Case the piper was near being strangled, squeezed by his pipe bells, chances and all. Girls and boys got all entangled, and that put an end to Lanigan's ball. 6 months I spent in Dublin, 6 months doing nothing at all. 6 months I spent in Dublin learning to dance for Lanigan's ball. She stepped out, I stepped in again, I stepped out. She stepped in again, she stepped out. I stepped in again learning to dance for Lanigan's ball.
Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. I am Marc Gunn. I'm a Sci F Irish musician and podcaster living in Atlanta, Georgia. If you're new to the show, please subscribe. You can do that at pubsong.com or just email me, follow@celtfather.net. That's the email address, follow@celtfather.net. We kicked off the show with Lanigan's Ball. It's from Soul of a Harper. I actually learned that song from Christy Moore, who had his stellar version. Oh my God, I love his version. It's just him and a bull run, and it's just fantastic. If you ever get a chance, go listen to that. But I decided to record it for my CD, Soul of a Harper, and that's what we're talking about today, is my first solo CD. It came out in 2004, 20 years ago, which is hard to believe. And I was still playing with the Brobdingnagian Bards at the time, but I needed something, an expression of my skill as an autoharper, as a singer, and that's exactly what I created. You find out more about that in the first episode of this series, which would happen on episode number 285. If you'd like to listen to the whole album, Soul of a Harper, it is available all on streaming, but you can also find it in my Bandcamp store. Once you have listened to the album, make sure you go cast your vote for your favorite tracks on the album. And of course, if you are a patron, you can also download the album for free over on Patreon. It is July, which means it is time for Plastic Free July, a global movement that helps millions of people be part of the solution to plastic pollution. So we can have cleaner streets, oceans, and beautiful communities. Will you be a part of the Plastic Free July by refusing single-use plastics? That's what it's all about. Refuse single-use plastics, plastic bags. Instead of going to the grocery store and getting a plastic bag, you either carry it out in your hands if you can, which you probably can't. So grab a tote bag and make our world a little bit cleaner. Every year, I take a small group of Celtic music fans on the relaxing adventure of a lifetime. We get to know the region through its culture, history, and legends. It's called Celtic Invasion Vacations. And at the end of September, we're invading Scotland's whiskey distilleries. I can't wait to try all these whiskeys. So it's going to be fun. We're going to hike, we're going to drink some whiskey, and it's going to be epic. So you can join us with an auditory and visual adventure through podcasts and videos at CelticInvasion.com, or better yet, join us on this next Celtic Invasion vacation. It's kind of appropriate that the Irish and Celtic Music podcast had a track called More Than Just a Dram. It was by Ed Miller from his album Lolander on episode number 660. And I asked fans to vote for their favorite songs in each episode of the podcast to create either Celtic Top 20. Well, that was one of mine. That was actually a really good episode, 660. So go check it out. We had a lot of great people talking about that. You'll find a link in the show notes. All right, here is Ed Miller with More Than Just a Dram.
Take clear water from the hills and barley from the lowlands. Take a master craftsman's skill and something harder to define, like secrets in the shape of copper stills, or the slow silent magic work of time. Whisky and the devil in disguise, at least a song, that's the way it seems. But you're more like an angel in my eyes. Catch the heady vapors as they rise and turn them into dreams. Bring back sherry casks from Spain, San Lucar, the Barometer, and fill them up again with the spirit of the land. Then let the woodwork to the spirit's gain, in a process no one fully understands. Whisky and the devil in disguise, at least a song, that's the way it seems. But you're more like an angel in my eyes. Catch the heady vapors as they rise and turn them into dreams. For the spirit starts out clear, but see the transformation after many patient years, when at last the tale unfolds. All the colours of the seasons will appear, from palest yellow to the deepest gold. Whisky and the devil in disguise, at least a song, that's the way it seems. But you're more like an angel in my eyes. Catch the heady vapors as they rise and turn them into dreams. So when you hold it in your hand, it's the pulse of one small nation, so much more than just a dram. You can see, if you will, the people and the weather and the land. All the past into the present is distilled. Whiskey and the devil in disguise, at least to some, that's the way it seems. But you're more like an angel in my eyes. Catch the heady vapors as they rise and turn them into peaceful, pleasant dreams.
The story of Buttercup's Lament. I wrote this song back in 2000 of December, and it began with the idea of a woman whose true love was lost at sea. Obviously, with that idea in my head, it reminded me of Buttercup's true love, Wesley, in the cult classic Princess Bride. So, of course, I decided to use that as the basis for writing a folk song. And that's really what I was doing. I was writing a folk song because at that time in particular, one of my goals was becoming a better songwriter. And following folk themes and ideas really kind of makes it a little bit easier. And so this is one of the ones that I started with. So I have the idea, there's a leaf on a tree and it's swaying, and a girl beneath the tree, tears in her eyes. There's a wolf on the run saying, "Where have you gone? Oh, where have you gone, sweet love of mine?" Now, you'll notice that I've used the wolf on the run. I'm going to bring in foxes and other stuff, but the whole reason I do that is to the personification of animals and other items, which again is a folk trait. Oh, wind, cruel wind, bring an end to the storm that took my love before its time. Oh, wind, cruel wind, bring an end. I will love him. Will you bring my true love back to my side? So we start with a tree. Next we have a puddle, the puddle of tears by the woman crying. There's a puddle on the ground and it's growing. And a girl above the pond, tears in her eyes. There's a fox on the run saying, "Where have you gone? Oh, where have you gone, sweet love of mine?" So that continues the same story, this is a very short song when it comes to the lyrics. There's a woman on the run saying, "Where have you gone? Oh, where have you gone, sweet love of mine? Where have you gone? Where have you gone, sweet love of mine?" Not my most exciting songwriting experience over the years, but not every song needs to be packed full of stuff like "Come Adventure With Me," which is a song from my latest album of the same name, "Come Adventure With Me." It's packed full of ideas inspired by The Hobbit, but this one is not. It is, again, my goal was a folk song, and I think I beautifully achieved it, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, one funny little fact, actually, as originally I recorded this on a 4-track, Tascam 4-track recorder. So we were on MP3.com. We were just blowing up. I think we got on there. I think it was at the beginning of 2000, actually. Wow. So if I wrote this at the end of 2000, that's crazy. But I had written this. It was the Brobdingnagian bards were blowing up over there, just doing really well. And so I was looking for ways to make more money and do some more songwriting and test some more ideas. These are a lot of things, inspiration. I have a whole CD going for broke, which is all about, testing theories with marketing online. And this song I ended up writing, and I was like, well, let me see if I can record it and post it on mp3.com. But first I have to record it. So I recorded it again on a 4-track, digital 4-track recorder, which was crazy at the time. So basically it's like having a cassette. If you look at a typical cassette tape, if you know what those are, You have two tracks on each side, stereo tracks, one left and right, and then two on the other side, left and right. So that basically gave you 4 tracks that you could record on with this Tascam 4-track recorder. And I got one for, I don't know why I bought it, but I wanted to test ideas, and I bought it. And this was one of the songs that I recorded with it. I converted it into an MP3. I posted it on mp3.com as Buttercup's Lament. It went pretty well. And then I added the parentheses, Princess Bride, and it went a lot better. And again, one of those tests that really helped. But of course, it was years later that I ended up re-recording the song and putting it on Soul of a Harper. And I think I actually put it on Brobdingnagian Fairy Tales a couple years after that. 2005 was Brobdingnagian Fairy Tales. So I hope you enjoyed that little story. But here is Buttercup's Lament. It's from my CD, Soul of a Harper.
There's a leaf on the tree, and it's swaying, and a girl neath the tree, tears in her eyes. There's a wolf on the run, saying, "Where have ye gone? Oh, where have ye gone, sweet love of mine? Oh, wind, cruel wind, bring an end to the storm that took my love for this time. Oh, wind, cruel wind, I long for him. Will you bring my true love back to my side?" There's a puddle on the ground, and it's growing, and the girl above the pond, tears in her eyes. There's a fox on the run, saying, "Where have ye gone? Oh, where have ye gone, sweet love of mine? Oh, wind, cruel wind, bring an end to the storm that took me love for this time. Oh, wind, cruel wind, I long for him. Will you bring my true love back to the side?" There's a woman on the run, saying, "Where have ye gone? Oh, where have ye gone, sweet love of mine? Oh, where have ye gone, sweet love of mine? Oh, where, I long for you here. Oh, where have ye gone, sweet love of mine?"
Support the club. This show is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon. If you enjoy this podcast or my music, please join the club. You'll get something new each and every week. It includes bonus podcasts, downloadable songs, printed sheet music, blogs, stories from the road. Plus, you'll get access to my Coffee with the Celt Father video concerts. You get it all ad-free when you listen and on Patreon. Email follow@celtfather.net. If you can't support me financially, just sign up on Patreon for free. Special thanks to my superhero Patreons, Janice G, Cecilia F, Not Higgins, CJT M, Sarah C, William M, Carol B, Eric R, James R, and Troy R. Thank you all so much for supporting my music over on Patreon. I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate it. As I've said on past episodes here, I took a whole bunch of interviews that I did on my Celt Father podcast, and I decided I wanted to re-release them over here on Pub Songs and Stories, because there's some great stories, and I didn't want those things to disappear. So I have two interviews I did with Paolo Garbanzo and Carl Asch. They both run a company called Ren Adventures, which is an idea they got from me, which I think I talk about in this episode. You'll learn why you should watch out for wild boars in Italy. So without further ado, we're going to start with Paolo Garbanzo as he talks about wild boars, juggling props, and the most beautiful place in Europe. Here is Paolo Garbanzo. This is Marc Gunn, and I am here with Paolo Garbanzo. Yes, we are rolling now. Sorry, I didn't tell you that. Paolo Garbanzo, a master juggler. Master juggler? What is that term you got in England when you...
that would be Jester of Muncaster Castle.
All right.
Honorary Jester of England.
Yes, Honorary Jester of England. And it's
like a Miss America for jesters.
And that's just weird images. I don't know.
Yeah, I killed it in the swimsuit competition.
Not only is Paolo extremely funny, or at least maybe just for me, I don't know. I laugh my butt off every time I'm around you. But he also is a bit of an adventurer, and he does a lot of traveling. Not only has he been doing it as a juggler, but as he's recently with some travel vacations that he's doing.
Excursion guide.
What's it called? Ren Adventures?
Yes, Ren Adventures.
An idea he stole entirely from me.
Absolutely.
And made it so much better than absolutely.
See? I don't know.
Which I love. I love that. I love that aspect. But what I want to talk about is adventuring in
general.
In adventuring, yes. Adventuring. I think adventuring in general, I think is good, because that could go everything from Dungeons and Dragons to...
I got some stories there. Just one time.
to, of course, traveling to Europe. So tell me about, what was your first trip to Europe?
Well, my first trip to Europe, honestly, was to teach at the circus school in Turin.
That's a joke, right?
No.
It sounds like a start of a joke.
No, it was 7 months, most of a school year. I had never actually, I'd been to the Bahamas and Mexico, but that was in the before times when you didn't actually need a passport. So it was like, thanks to the internet, I got this job, and this was 2003, so it was just before the Winter Olympics in Turin.
Wow.
So they were doing a whole bunch of construction and things like that, but I tell you, before the Olympics, no one spoke English in Turin.
Really?
Oh my gosh. So I was like...
Your Italian was pretty strong then?
No, it wasn't. It was terrible, actually, by then. Back in the day, it was okay. It was passable, but it was definitely not, I'd get to a point and I'd be like, I don't know if he told me that the bus was at 3 or there were 3 buses at 6. And I'm like, oh God, I have no idea.
So you taught there, and then now it seems like you tour.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. So once you're there, right, then you meet all these people, and of course I'm teaching circus kids who then are going. Some of them were already professionals, and doing pretty well for themselves already, and they just wanted some extra learning. When they were like, "Hey, you're going to be back here next year, or like, are you going to be here in summer? Or, like, there's a festival. Maybe we could get you to come in and like do, we could all juggle." And I was like, "Sure."
Were you doing juggling full time then? Were you doing a lot?
Oh, sure.
When did you start?
When did I start?
It's juggling.
Started juggling when I was 12.
Okay.
I got my first paid gig probably when I was like 15 or 16.
Wow.
And then in college we started juggling with a group, and then of course that group broke up. We broke up the band because everyone had a different definition of what the term "I would like to be a professional juggler" is.
That's always the big challenge.
Yeah, you're like, really? I thought being a professional juggler meant I was going to tour around and get the jobs that I wanted to, like trying to get, and that was not what everyone else thought it meant. So
everyone has different opinions. Yeah.
It's like being in a band. So then eventually I was a solo artist, and then I was solo artist on the Ren Adventures circuit for like a year and a half, and then they picked up the Karamazov brothers, or they picked up me rather, and then I toured with them for 2 years, and then weirdly enough, not that it's ever all about money, but I was actually doing better as a solo performer booking my own shows than I was with touring with a touring show that I was not in charge of. So,
which is kind of how it is, and with solo art, it's why you find so many Scottish and Irish solo musicians out there, because they're like, I make more money this way.
And it's like,
but then you start missing playing with a band, but then you got Carl Asch.
Fun. Right? Oh yeah, and we do the knife throwing show together, and I will occasionally get the Fools of Fortune together. It's like a few jugglers that I can get together for a few months, a few weeks. Actually, we're going to be here for the last 3 weekends of Sherwood Forest as Fools of Fortune. Wow. Yeah, so we're going to get a couple people together and do the show, and maybe there'll be mouse traps. I don't know. We're hoping.
No, last I remember, the last big tour I remember, I think you were going through Germany, is that right?
Yeah, well, that was like, so for a while I was there like June, July, August.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd go through England to my castle, and then I would shoot on down to Germany, and then cross Germany like for a month and a half, and then do the Czech Republic, which is a show that I do almost every year, even if I don't have another tour going on. I'll just shoot over there and do that show.
Why the Czech Republic?
Because it's gorgeous.
Really?
Oh my God, it's a beautiful town. Český Krumlov, which is spelled...
I've heard you talk about this.
Cesky. Krumlov is Krumlov. And it is a gorgeous city. The entire city is an UNESCO World Heritage Site. The entire city.
Wow.
And... it is literally, it's been in a ton of movies. It was in The Illusionist with Edward Norton. It's like, this is the one you film when you're like, we need a good shot of some gorgeous medieval town. Oh, go there and do it. And you just take a shot.
Zoom in, right.
Yeah, so it's just great, and I have a great time there. The people are really awesome, and I'm they put me on this giant stage in the middle of this giant piazza where there's like literally thousands of people, and they're like, this Amerikanski from United States of America is going to juggle, and it's crazy. It's hilarious. Because I don't speak Czech. I speak like 12 words of Czech adequately. The rest I destroy, and then we just have this really great fun time trying. It's a show about me trying to speak Czech and juggle at the same time. And
okay, so you do speak Czech during the show?
Yeah, badly.
Or attempt to. Yes. Yeah, I've done that before. Well, not Czech, but you're taking on one of your Ren Adventures. Did you already do that one? Or
no, we're getting that in June.
That's the one you're coming in June. And where's that going to?
Well, basically, so we're just going to Český Krumlov because the festival's 3 days. And then there's also like rafting, and there's some theaters that we're going to go see that are near there, which are incredible.
Are you staying in one place, or
for half the tour, we're going to be in Český Krumlov because there's a Baroque theater. One of 3 surviving Baroque theaters exists in that city. The rest of them were burned to the ground. And
the rest they couldn't fix, right?
Yeah,
gotcha.
And amazing place. It's like Baron Munchausen, with all the sets and the drops and all the sound effects and the machines and all these things. And it's incredible. The machinery is amazing.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna be there for a few days. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna raft. We're gonna do some other excursions there, and then we're gonna go to Prague and then do for like 5 days and do excursions from there.
Okay, now I'm here at Sherwood Forest Fair, and I've already gotten people saying, "Oh, did you see this? Ren Adventures, Paolo, Garbanzo," and what I was really intrigued with is that, again, like I said, you did it bigger and better than I did. Is that you have like multiple lined up already?
Yes.
And what all? Could you just tell me? Go ahead and.
Well, it's really started. We
and you're doing multiple musicians too, right?
Yeah. So we're
artists.
Yeah, we're doing. This all started We were going to do New Year's because we were like, well, that's not when we don't have any gigs, we don't, so like we're free at New Year's. So like, let's do New Year's. And I would say thanks, Carl Asch, for being such an amazing promoter that we filled it up in literally like 12. And we filled it up in the first. Yeah, we want to keep them small. We're not out to like 35 people. Woo, because the point of it is kind of
traveling into city.
Usually, we hire a vehicle.
Okay,
and then they're we know a guy. So it's great. So we filled it up like amazingly fast before we even left Sherwood. So we were like, oh, well, maybe we should do another one. And Carl loves Tuscany, so we were like, well, let's go to Tuscany. So then we filled that one up, and then we said, well, and then they moved the dates of Sherwood so that we had February open, and I was like, well, why don't we just do Carnevale in Sicily? And we were like, okay, let's do that, and then we filled that up, and then so we have two more tours. We have another Tuscany tour and the Czech Republic tour. They're not full, but we have a group,
right?
So. And then my Czech tour, because Carl's going off somewhere else, he's going to Tuscany. The guys from Volgamont were like, well, we're going to be in Germany. Let's all meet up. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So they're bringing some of their fans, and we're going to all meet up in Czech Republic and do the show there, and then wander around Prague for a while. So it'll be great.
That sounds pretty cool. So you are bringing others, and I think aren't there some washing well winches or?
We are in the midst of trying to figure out for 2018.
Okay.
Probably October. This is not nailed down because it's really hard to nail down the washer well winches. That was not a.
That didn't came out. Never mind.
If you know what I mean. And what I mean is that it's really...
Yes, I got you. I understand what you're saying. I think these people do too.
They're very busy. So yeah, but it looks like it's going to be October 2018. Okay. Maybe a Halloween in Ireland and Wales.
Oh, wow.
And like do a little thing where we take a ferry across the...
Holyhead.
So...
Nice.
Yeah, so, because we were talking about Wales because there's the best castles in England in
oh my gosh,
Great Britain are in Wales. And they were like, well, what about drinking in Dublin? And I was like, well, all right, so... that might be a giant tour with a lot of basically the more people go on the tour, the more washer well wenches we can have on the tour.
Right.
So fortunately there's a lot of them.
Right.
So bring your friends and you get an extra washer well wench. So it's kind of like a bonus.
With all your traveling, what's your favorite place that you've ever been to?
Oh my gosh. It's impossible to say because I'm not even being diplomatic. It's more the like this has, Cinque Terre has the mountains, the crystal clear blue water, and what I do there is it's on the Italian Riviera. You go hiking in the morning, and then you end up in some towns. You have a little lunch in a cafe somewhere, and then it's hot, so you go swimming in the crystal clear blue water, and then you get out and you have a little food, and then you go do shows at a piazza of whatever town you're in, and then you go drinking with friends, and then you wake up and do it all again, and it's like that's pretty awesome. So then...
that's your summers and...
yeah, sometimes. But then, like Český Krumlov is a gorgeous city with a lot of history and, a lot of other things going on. So, you're like, well, what do you want to see? What do you want to do? And sometimes I'm in the mood for... amazing theater, and sometimes I'm just in the mood to go swimming. So, so many. Baden-Baden in Germany is amazing. The baths there, actually, like originally Roman baths. Pretty much everywhere in Germany that there were hot baths, the Romans were, because they were like, wait, hot water without having to like burn a ton of wood. We're there. Booyah. Bonus.
V.
Yes. Exactly. Bodenbus. Yeah. So, it just kind of depends. In English, up in the Corny Fells, up in Cumbria, freaking gorgeous. And just, there's this place, Derwent, has those pencils, and they're very famous. They're coloring pencils for coloring landscapes. And you're kind of like, these are weird colors. And you're like, some sort of weird burnt umber kind of thing, and this kind of off green. And then you go to Cumbria, and you're like, oh, that color is that bush. that color is that specific tree or bark color. And you're like, oh, that's why they have those weird colors. So the place is just fantastic. And, I don't know. It's like, can you have a favorite? Earth. Earth is my favorite place. It's where I keep all my stuff.
Okay, how about a little easier one? Best travel tips?
Oh, gosh. Well, kind of that just depends on where you are. If you're in a big city, always be careful. Just, don't be a target. And it's not like there are terrible places to be, but, and there
have you ever been robbed?
I've been accosted. They never succeeded. So
because you have your juggling knives, almost sharp juggling knives.
There's this kind of strange thing that they'll do. I mean, especially if you're alone, a couple of guys will try to divert your attention and be like, "Hey, look at this, look at this." Meanwhile, the guy's just grabbing into your pockets. Don't have anything valuable in your pockets. Don't have anything that's easy access. That's kind of like my general. Because you just never know. You're on a crowded subway. Some guy picks pockets. Travel vaguely light. I mean, especially if you're in Europe or something like that, it's not like you need to take a lot of clothes with you, because go buy some. Just travel light and maybe get a new shirt. You can get an Italian cool guy shirt that you're like, I feel like a cool guy with this shirt on. That's what I think you should do, and help the Italian economy.
What about getting over there? I mean, do you travel well on the economies?
Yeah. Usually there was that one time where when I went to the Czech Republic to do the festival, they totally lost my luggage, and
what did you juggle?
I juggled wine bottles, bananas, a chair, and just other stuff.
Jugglers got it so easy.
Yeah, you just I
have an autoharp. You could juggle a chair.
Yeah, you probably carry on the autoharp. They don't let me. They don't let me carry on the knives. So all my. Yeah, literally, it was like, I have some bean bags. That was the only thing that I had in my carry-on.
Impressive.
Yeah, and I was like, oh,
time to get another onion.
So stoned. And I literally did the entire festival, and all my stuff showed up the last day at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, great, just in time for me to leave. That's great.
Right.
But they were super impressed, because they were like, wait, you don't have props? And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'll find some wine bottles or something. It'll be cool. They're like, what? You will juggle the wine bottles? That's very impressive. I was like, oh, really?
Yes, it is. I planned this the whole time.
Totally planned this whole time. It's the improvisational theater.
That actually raises an interesting thing. Did you get reimbursed by the airline? Did you end up buying clothes and having the airline reimburse?
Well, they found my stuff. I mean, so it's
there's some law. I know. Okay, so 2 years ago, I think they were. I guess not. 2 years ago, they had I think we were in Donegal, and my stuff didn't arrive. So basically, what they did is they said, we will send it to you when it arrives. In the meantime, I had 2 days or something of. I basically was buying stuff on their penny. It turned out they ended up reimbursing me.
No, I had my basic stuff, clothing and stuff, but I did have to borrow a costume.
Yeah,
I mean, literally everything was gone, so I was like, oh my god, this is.
But you look more Czech.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I ended up being on the
crazy guys.
I was not in my costume. I ended up being on the cover of their tour guide brochures. I was like, oh, really? But, yeah.
That's awesome. Final places, any other final things that would really, for traveling, adventuring, what inspires you to adventure? Is it Dungeons and Dragons? Is it?
I was inspired by Dungeons and Dragons long ago. And maybe honestly, I mean, that's kind of a good point. It's maybe I'm just let's go climb that castle. What the heck? What could go wrong? What, banshees? I know how to beat them, you know. But you know, and it's not like a fearlessness of anything, but you're kind of like, I don't know, let's go find out. You know, what's the worst that could happen? And an adventure is only an adventure when something goes horribly wrong, but no one dies, I guess. Maybe. So, you know, or things almost go catastrophically wrong, but then don't.
Have you ever had those adventures?
Oh, yes.
Where they near catastrophic, almost death.
We've had insane...
I want to hear that story.
Oh my gosh! I mean, so many. Well, I wouldn't say death. Well, yeah, yeah. You know, oh gosh, where were we?
Hopefully it wasn't on one of your Ren Adventures.
No. Actually,
like I did on my Celtic Invasion.
Uh-oh.
Go ahead.
No, we everyone has survived. You know what? And you know what? Here's the thing. Let me tell you. So our friends in Sicily, and again, there's so much history in Sicily. If you're interested in history at all, there's 700 years of Greek history and 500 years of Greek history before the Romans ever show up. So, like... Romans, and, but you know, like so much stuff going on in that place, ancient Greek ruins. But you know, we know so many awesome people there. So one of our adventurers with us left her purse, like in this town that we had spent Carnivale in. You know, tens of thousands of people, literally tens of thousands of people, and we're like, oh my gosh, your purse is gone. And so, you know, like, you know, we checked everywhere, we did everything, and we were like, well, wait, you know, we think it might have been at this restaurant. And of course, you know, we have to leave to get back to Palermo to get on the planes, and we're like, the restaurant is closed, there's nobody there, the restaurant doesn't open till 2, you know, and we're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And our guy, Dario, he's only one miracle away from being a saint now. He was like, well, no, I know this guy, and let me call him. And then they phone treed all the way around until they found, oh, I know the lady who works at the restaurant, and like, and they got the purse, shipped it back to him. Well, unfortunately, didn't have her like passport in it. She had her passport and all that stuff. So, okay. But we were like, you know, we are driving away from the town, you know, going, well, it's gone forever. It's, you know, and 3 days later, it showed up at her nice. at her house. So, wow. You know, and you're like, wait, you called? I mean, the chain of phone calls that happened to make that happen, and just the people that, you had to know that guy who knew that guy who knew that guy, and you know, you just talk to these people in these bakery, and you're like, well, the bakery is across the street from the restaurant, they gotta know somebody. These towns are so small, everyone knows everybody. And so you're like, oh no, I know her, yeah, I'll give her a call when she gets up, you know, like, and there it is, boom. So incredible. Yeah, I mean, we were floored, because you know, that doesn't happen in America, right? Like, it seems very strange and odd, but
all right. So final notes is you are at the Sherwood Forest Fair right now. Yes. Where are you going after this?
So April, I'm here at Sherwood Forest for we got this weekend and 3 more. The last weekend of April, I'll be at the Gathering of Legends in North Carolina. It's a fairy festival, so I get to do some wackier stuff. And then Tennessee Ren Fair in May. And then we run off to Italy in June. And
you can find out more about you at
GarbanzoJuggling.com.
And Ren Adventures. Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's Garbanzo, like the bean. Garbanzo.
And then juggling.com. And then
RenAdventures.com.
That's cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Oh, yeah. And watch out for wild boar in Italy.
Wild. Okay. Explain.
Wild boar. Well, sometimes you go hiking and then you... have
you really run into...
I fortunately did not run into the actual boar themselves.
Literally. Yeah.
I did run into a sign that said, in Italian, warning, wild boar. Now, the word for pig and wild boar are 2 totally different things, and I wasn't really sure if that was the right word. And I was like, wait a minute, what is that word? Something, danger, something, maybe that's wild boar, something. I am hiking, like, way out where nobody else hikes. Like, only Germans hike here. And then I look around and I realize there's shotgun shell casings, like, everywhere.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble. Fortunately, boar are nocturnal mostly, but it really is a really disturbing sight. So, you know, stay on the paths mostly.
All right, thanks so much. I'll talk to you later.
All right, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Let's go gallivanting up the double hill mountains, where the deepest shadows and the brightest sunbeams cut through the mists like you're in a daydream. Round the rushy bogland, where the sheep roam freely, and the hawthorn hedges lead the Castle Kelly. Off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile. Let's go off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile. Let's go gallivanting round the Wicklow Mountains, where the ferns are plenty and the streams are mighty, and the sugar loaf stands like a mighty sentry. Stop the light at Ganda, a piece in Glencree, or a bite to eat in Enniskerry. Let's go off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile. Let's go off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile. They are in the real world, the real world. I don't belong in the real world. Down the valley in the real world, the real world. I don't want to go to the real world when I'm off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile. Off the grid for a while, guaranteed to make you smile.
That was Enda Reilly with Off the Grid for a While. It's a single that he released and one of my favorites in the Celtic Top 20 for sure, number 660. So if you like that song, and go check it out. You'll find links in the show notes at pubsong.com. Next up, we have an interview with Carl Asch. He's talking about biking across Italy and a lot more. Enjoy this interview.
This is Marc Gunn, the Celt Father, and I am here with Giacomo the Jester, a.k.a. Carl Asch.
Carl Asch.
I pronounce it right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're well. First off, you're like the consummate, like the Renaissance performer. I've seen Empty Hats. I know. I found y'all on mp3.com.
Sure.
Long time ago. Well, tell me just a little bit about you, your musical background, and before we get talking about bicycling across Italy, which I think just sounds really awesome.
Okay. Well, I started out, I studied classical guitar in New York City when I was 17 years old, and that was sort of my first foray into music. Then I learned how to juggle and do some magic, and I started traveling around the world as Giacomo the Jester, doing a show of magic and juggling and rope walking and stuff like that in different languages. I did it in Italian, I did it in German. I did it in Spanish.
So you literally traveled the world? You weren't just doing Renfest?
No, this was before I did Renfest.
Wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, my first professional job was 1982 at the World's Fair in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, wow.
And so, and I did that for 6 months. And I did my Giacomo the Jester show every day. And I loved it. And then what I would do...
How did you create your Jester show? I'm sorry to...
No, that's all right. How did I create it? I had this idea that street performing was going to be my life. I needed a way that I could travel the globe and make money as I did it. Because I never studied theater. And then I read a book by Hermann Hesse called Narcissus and Goldmund, which was about a medieval traveler. And I read this book, and I left the next day. I literally read the book, and I was like, I'm out of here. And then I learned how to juggle, learned how to do some magic, and then I sort of put it all together. Well, now, to go back like another seven years or so, when I was 15, I was with my parents in New York City, in Little Italy, and we saw this street performer who was on the street in the middle of hundreds of people doing Shakespearean sonnets. Now, I was 15. I didn't understand a word of what he said.
Right.
And I was entranced by this man. And then my father gives me $1 to put in his hat, which was such a foreign, never heard of this before. Right. But I thought, if my father is parting with $1, this is pretty special. And so I put $1 in his hat. 2 weeks later, I met this man in New York City. And I was like, I just saw you perform and blah, blah, blah. And he told me all about traveling around the world performing. And I couldn't believe it. But I was 15, and I didn't know how to do anything.
Right.
Then later on, and I thought, I want to travel. And then I remembered this guy.
Juggling.
And I saw a movie, The Court Jester, with Danny Kaye, and he was Giacomo the Jester. I certainly didn't think it was going to stick for 40 years, you know.
Oh, my God.
And then I wrote this show using the magic that I had and the skills that I had, and I wrote a story about a king and a queen and how this king doth to come to choose his wife, and you know, and I still do that show today. And then I wrote a knife throwing show that I do with Paolo here. And then I started the band Empty Hat. Double Indemnity first.
Okay.
And then when that imploded badly, we reformed as Empty Hats. And then that became sort of the main thrust of what I do, was Irish and Celtic music.
Yeah.
And just fell in love with it.
Now, you did tell me a few years back that one thing that I thought was kind of captivating is that you don't do drinking songs.
We don't do a lot of them. I mean, we'll do a couple, but we don't play at pubs.
Right. Is that okay? That's what it is.
We don't play at pubs. We do a couple of drinks. So I even wrote, unbeknownst, really, I didn't set out to do this way, but I sort of wrote a drinking song that I'm really proud of. Right. But I'm like, you know.
Which I'm going to put at the end of the show because I love that song.
Yeah.
If it's okay with you.
So, I'm not a big fan of like people getting wasted, and so I don't play at pubs.
That's great. I love that because I thought that was like, that in itself was a captivating story.
Wow.
So I mean, like, wow.
I've never been drunk ever in my life.
Wow, fantastic.
So
fantastic.
And
now you're Italian?
No, I'm Jewish.
You're Jewish. Okay,
I am.
But you have a love of Italy, right?
I do. Even as a kid, I always thought I was an Italian trapped in a Jew's body.
Awesome.
So I've had this love affair with Italian.
What got you started?
I don't know. I mean, I performed with this Italian troupe in New York City for a number of years as a jester. They were called I Giullari di Piazza, and so I, did that, and then I performed. No, this was more. Well, Well, maybe. I performed in Italy. My first trip, I was 19, and I knew this was before I was Giacomo, and I knew how to do just a couple of tricks and blah blah blah. And I went with my cousin to Italy for the first time and performed in Milan and got arrested.
Why did you get arrested for?
I got arrested for performing.
For performing, okay.
Because we were in a place. It was a time in Italy's history where they didn't want crowds to develop. They had just had some real terrorism.
Yeah.
And so I had drawn a crowd.
I remember some of that.
And I got arrested. Me and my cousin, we both got arrested. We were singing and doing magic tricks and whatever. But I also met this beautiful Italian woman. This was before we got arrested.
And thus we fall in love with Italy.
Right.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because what happened was, so we're singing songs, and this woman comes forward, puts $1 in my hat, gives me the loveliest smile, and walks off. And I turned to my cousin and I said, I gotta go. And I didn't see him for 3 days. And then we had this sort of 3-day cinematic romance. It was just phenomenal. She and a friend of hers taught me how to sing my first Italian song.
Nice.
And then I taught them how to sing an Italian song, which was Mr. Bojangles. And which in Italian sounded like, I knew a man of Bojangles, he'd a dancer for you. In a worn out the shoe. It was hysterical teaching them the song.
Yeah.
And so then 5 years ago, I was telling this story to a friend of mine about learning my first Italian song. And I thought, I wonder if she's on Facebook.
Oh, really?
And so I went on and said Valerio Loconte and like blah blah blah, and so I found this woman, and I couldn't recognize her because she had big huge sunglasses, and I said, I met this woman, many years ago, and if you are she, I'd like to be in touch. And I get a response a couple of days later. All it says is, I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you. And this is 35 years later.
Wow.
And so we've been in touch.
Well, there are advantages to it.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then I've seen her a couple of times. She's married, she has kids, and so but it was just so beautiful. And I saw her a couple of years ago in Milan, and we got to hang out, and we all went for dinner and stuff like that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was really great.
That sounds awesome.
Really fun.
Now, I'm going to do a little selfish thing because as you're talking about this, you created this show. What to you? What makes a great show? I mean, whether it's Empty Hats or Giacomo, what makes a great show and a compelling show that brings in the masses? That you gather all these people.
Well, when I first started performing at Renaissance festivals as Giacomo, I vowed I was never going to play music at festivals because no one paid attention to it. And then when I discovered this band, Silly Wizard.
Yeah.
Somebody gave me a tape of Silly Wizards, and I just, we became Double Indemnity. Really was a sort of a Silly Wizard cover band.
Yeah.
I just was in love with Andy M. Stewart's music and stuff. And I started employing variety show techniques to playing music.
Explain.
As you know, performing is all about connection.
Right.
And so the technique is relatively irrelevant. So if you can connect with your audience, if you can tell a story, because even as a musician, I'm a storyteller more than anything else. So it's about communicating a story, telling a story, and getting them to feel something. If I can... I remember once I was working with a singer, and she was singing a sad song. And one day she came to me and she said, sometimes I don't feel sad when I'm singing the song, and I feel like I'm not. And I said, it's not your job to feel sad. It's your job to make them feel sad. And what are the techniques used to do that?
Right.
And so, but nobody really teaches you that to a musician.
Right.
You learn that as a theater person.
Right.
And knowing, I have to communicate this trick. I have to manipulate them to get this laugh to, and if you employ those techniques as a musician, you will get that same response. But it's all about connection.
Because it seems like, from what I've heard, I have never seen Empty Hats, but it seems like y'all have mastered that really well. I mean, it sounds like you have really good audiences that show up at your shows. And
we do. We're very, very lucky. We're very, very blessed.
Yeah.
I work with a woman, Linda Cavey, who plays Looney Lucy, who's a genius. She is a genius. And we feed off one another so well, almost like a Burns and Allen and Abbott and Costello. We are just really good foils together, and we love the audience. If you don't love your audience, it's not going to work. And so. And if I didn't love my audience, I'd do something else.
Right.
When I was a little kid, if I would go to the movies and I didn't like the movie, I'd go up to the front row and I would turn around and just watch the audience, because audiences fascinate me. To me, the idea of taking 200 individuals or 300 individuals and making them one audience, that's the magic. And
interesting.
And everything else is subservient to that ideal, is to take 200 people and make them one audience. Getting 200 people to laugh at once, to applaud with equal vigor, that's the connection. That's your job.
Do you tell, outside of the individual songs, do you tell stories? Do you make your show into a story?
No, not musically. Okay. I mean, we tell the songs or stories
behind the songs,
and we don't tell stories that much. The introductions are short.
Yeah.
To me, introductions are teasers.
Yeah.
They let the audience know that this is something that they should attend to.
Okay.
I don't want to give them too much, because then they'll know what it's about. And all right, Now, I'm very lucky. People like my voice, so I'm really lucky with that, and I tell a story.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So now the reason I actually brought you over here, sorry, that was like my own selfish. I've been trying to understand performance even better, so I like talking to performers of all types and seeing what I can learn as well. But I also love traveling, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you in the first place, because you are working with Paolo Garbanzo with Ren Adventures.com, and you were telling me though earlier that you a while back you did a bicycle tour of Italy. From was it Sicily to Venice? Venezia, really.
Palermo
that sounds like just like a great adventure, and I love adventures. So
it was incredible. It was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. Well, I like doing long-distance bicycle trips.
Okay.
I bicycled from San Francisco to L.A. I bicycled from Tampa down to Key West.
Wow. What do you take with you? Do you take
not a lot, now I'm not a camper so much, so I'm what's called a credit card bicyclist, we'll go to hotels and we'll, I bicycled the length of the Natchez Trail, which is a phenomenal bike ride. Any of you want to do a great bike ride, Nashville to Natchez, Mississippi on the Natchez Trace. It's phenomenal. It's really great. So I was doing a bike trip. A little backstory, I'm sorry. I just love doing long distance bike trips.
Okay.
And my older sister had been diagnosed with cancer. And I said, let's do something fun. I can't heal you, but let's do something fun.
Right.
And so I said, how about we do a bike trip together? You've always wanted to do a bike trip with me. Why don't we do a bike trip together? And she said, yeah, all right, let's do that. And I said, okay, where do you want to go? And she said to me, where do you want to go? And I went, you don't want to ask that, because there's only one place in the world I ever want to go, and that's Italy. And she said, all right, well, let's do that.
Awesome.
So we did a bike trip. Now, she was sick and blind. My sister was born blind, and I'd been riding her on a tandem bicycle since I'm a kid.
Okay.
So we went to, we got in touch with this company called Back Roads, which does bicycle touring around the world, and they are a phenomenal company. I cannot speak highly enough of this company. So if you ever get a chance, Back Roads, it's really, really fabulous. And we did a 5-day tour. They gave us a tandem bicycle. They gave me a regular bicycle. Am I running out of time? Sorry.
No, you good.
And then so we did this 5-day trip. At the same time, just right before that happened, a very dear friend of mine, my best friend, his wife died, and we met him in Siena in Italy. And I said, let's do a healing trip next year. Let's do a bicycle trip for Ginny. She was a washerwell wench. I don't know if you knew her, Ginny Bartholomew. Anyway, she died, and he was a mess. So I said, why don't we do a trip that you and Ginny were going to do together? They were going to do a trip. She was a Shakespearean actress. And I said, let's do a bicycle trip going to all of the places mentioned in Shakespeare's plays in Italy.
Nice.
And so that's what we did. There's a book called Shakespeare's Guide to Italy.
Oh, wow.
Which is a phenomenal book. And this guy spent 25 years tracing all of the street where Mercutio and Tybalt had their fight.
Right.
So that's what we did. So we started in Palermo. We went across the northern coast of Sicily, ended up in Messina, and then took a ferry to the mainland and went up to Rome, then up to, we went to Verona, Padova, Venice, Sabionetta, which is where Midsummer Night's Dream is set. And so that's the trip that we did. We took the entire month of June that year. Wow. And he did a healing ritual in every one of those cities where the Shakespeare places.
That's
so it was an amazing trip. It was somber a lot of the time because he was still really in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
But it was really good. It was really good. And bicycling in Italy is just amazing.
Have you done other trips since then?
The year later, I went to Italy and studied in Modena for 2 weeks, and then went across the country, which is not much. It's only 400 miles. So, so I took a week to do that, and that was by myself. Italy just built a cross-country bicycle highway.
Oh, wow.
From Venice to Torino.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's about 500 miles, I think.
Oh, wow.
Venice to Torino. So I'm dying to do that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, I think your first trip to Italy was that down to
I was
Sicilia?
to Sicily. Yeah. New Year's Eve. So we had New Year's Eve in Palermo, and then we went to Cefalù, which is stunning. Do you know Sicily at all?
I don't. I've never been.
Oh my God, Cefalù is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Then to Taormina, which looks like a movie set. You're just expecting Shakespearean actors to just leap out at any second. I mean, it's just that beautiful. And then we went down to Agrigento, to the Valley of the Gods, Valley of the Temple.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah.
One of the things I think it sounded really extra cool, which I thought, I was like, I need to learn to steal that or something, was your shopping trips in shopping trips in
Oh, yeah. Well, what we decided to do, so my thing is that I want our patrons to meet Italians, I decided that if you come back to the States without having at least 3 Italians now on your Facebook feed, I haven't done my job.
Right.
If you haven't befriended that people, So one of the things we do is we make dinner at the villa that we're staying at, and we go to the market and we buy the food. So I assign, you're going to get onions, which is cipolle, you're going to get the fungi, the mushrooms, you're going to get pesce, the fish, and I'll show you, and Paolo will show you, and we'll go with you if you want, but you're going to buy the food. You know, and they go, and they're a little nervous, and they point a lot, you know, but they really liked it. It was a really nice experience cool. for them to
I think that's a nice,
go in.
Very personal, and they learn a little Italian in the process.
Learn a little Italian,
which
you know.
is it's such a
little thing. And it's so funny because people will come home, and when they learn things like biscotti is plural. Right. Cannoli is plural.
Pisses me off.
Yeah, right. So, and I even had, I love, you come back and a waiter goes, you want cannoli? I'll just have one. And they look at you like, what? What? So you're just messing with them. But, and it's great. It's just great to see people's eyes open.
Awesome.
To just a new country, and Sicily has just the most wonderful people in it. I mean, I just fall in love with Sicily.
You're biased because you're part Sicilian. You just in a Jewish body.
Right. It's just phenomenal. I mean, it's just phenomenal, and just the people are. They say that Sicilians are so poor that because they give it all away and they don't keep anything for themselves. And if you get invited to somebody's house for dinner in Sicily, they will throw you a feast, even if it means they're not eating for the next couple of days. Wow. I mean, they will do it. I've seen them do it.
Wow.
They just have to do it.
So much.
And they're just so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're so warm and
so if people want to join you on one of your trips, you can go to renadventures.com.
Absolutely.
Where can people find out more about you and your music?
EmptyHats.com.
Okay.
I'm also CarlAsch.com, actually. Okay. I have 3 solo albums that I've done. The last one I did, every song was recorded with a different band from all over the country.
Nice.
So I did it with a Zydeco band in New Orleans. I did it with a bluegrass band in Nashville, jazz band in New York.
Awesome.
Candace Knight, do you know who that is? She recorded on one of my songs. That album was the most expensive thing I've ever done, and it took 3 years and every penny I had.
Right, and of course you can find him also at Sherwood Forest Fair for the next 3 weekends.
There you go, next 3 more weekends.
So thank you so much for chatting.
Yeah, I hope this was good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Me mate, we've had a pint and lots of talk, but I hear me wife a-calling, I hope I still can walk. It's time we wandered home, threw our hats into the door, and we'll both be sleeping easy if they stay put on the floor. So I stumble toward me house, pray me wife's not mad for staying out so late. And for all the pints I've had, I take off me favourite derby and I throw it through the door, 'cause I'll be sleeping easy if it stays upon the floor. But the hat came back, landed on me head. I guess that means that I'm not welcome in me bed. I'll be sleeping in the barn again in a heavy gunny sack, 'cause that's what happens when the hat comes back. I beg, I throw me hat inside once more, but when an old wool blanket comes out, I know just what's in store. I go down into the barn so's I can find an empty stall, but I can tell just by the smell it hasn't been cleaned since fall. I wake up with a start, I hear the barn door open wide. I get up to me feet, just as me wife, she steps inside. She's looking even prettier than on the day that we had wed, 'cause she wasn't wearing nothing but me hat upon her head. So the hat came back, and it's on me darling's head. I guess tonight the barn will be our own true marriage bed. We'll be making hay till morning in a heavy gunny sack, 'cause sometimes that's what happens when the hat comes back. Yeah, sometimes that's what happens when the hat comes back. Yeah, sometimes that's what happens when the hat comes back.
That, of course, was Empty Hats with The Hat Came Back from the same titled album, one of the bands of Carl Asch. I hope you had a wonderful time listening to those interviews and learned a little bit more about my first solo CD and made you a little bit happy. Let me know what you think. I would love your feedback. You can send it to follow@killedfather.net as well, because that's a great way to communicate while you're finding out more about the podcast or just interacting. I like to get feedback, and if you enjoy these interviews, or if you didn't, let me know. Nevertheless, I will be back. I have one final podcast that needs to be out there that I'm going to do for this album. Show number 289. I'm talking to Cedric of the Bedlam Bards. I have 2 really cool interviews I did with him that I can't wait to share with you. So I'll talk to you again next week. Sláinte. Thank you for listening to Pub Songs and Stories. This episode was edited by Mitchell Peterson. You can follow and listen to the show on my Patreon or wherever you find podcasts. Sign up to my mailing list to learn more about songs featured in this podcast and discover where I'm performing. Remember, reduce, reuse, recycle, and think about how you can make a positive impact on climate change. Have fun and sing along at pubsong.com.